Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, says no to impeachment. How does Vice President Carlson sound to you? And did you hear about the city administrator who wants to steal Christmas? Stay tuned, everybody. For the best meat you have ever eaten in your life, go to samsbutchershop.com. Enter the coupon code Triple T when you check out for a 10% discount. And a happy Monday to you all. Hello, everybody. I am trailertrashtim. How's your mama and them? I'm glad you have joined me. We're going to kick off a new week here on a Monday. So thanks for stopping by. We got a lot to cover, so let's get going. Have you heard that the Speaker of the House, the new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson of Louisiana, has weighed in on the potential impeachment of President Biden? And Johnson has apparently rejected this. And he said one day last week that there is currently not enough evidence for impeachment. Okay, I don't know what more you need, but Speaker Johnson says, yeah, we don't have enough evidence for impeachment. Now, a lot of you probably know of a woman by the name of Laura Loomer. I follow Laura on X. She's an investigative reporter, formerly, I believe, of, oh my goodness, what was the outfit? The undercover outfit. Project Veritas. I think she was with Project Veritas. I think she was associated with them. But she is a really good investigative reporter, and she has absolutely hit the roof about this. With regard to Speaker Johnson, she is apoplectic, at least in her tweets, with regard to Johnson saying there's just not enough evidence to impeach Joe Biden right now. And when you first hear that, you've got to be going, are you crazy? Are you serious? How can you say there's not enough evidence? We have overwhelming evidence with regard to the Biden crime family. How can you stand there and say that there's not enough evidence? And Laura Loomer, for one, is completely coming unglued about this matter. And, you know, maybe rightfully so. But it just seems to me like that, you know, either Johnson has been compromised already in some manner, and maybe that's true, or maybe he's got a card up his sleeve, and here's what I mean. Is it possible that Speaker Mike Johnson knows that indeed there is a plethora of evidence which could be used to facilitate the impeachment of Joe Biden? He knows that's the case. He can't possibly not know that. But there is a line of thought about this as to why Johnson might come out and say something like this, which just seems unbelievable. Is it possible that he's saying these things with a wink and a nod? Is it possible that Speaker Johnson and the GOP at large doesn't want to impeach Joe Biden for this reason? Because they would rather have him around at election time? Are we playing a game of strategy here? Are they saying they would rather Biden be in office to have a rematch of Trump versus Biden again, which they may be confident Trump would win, and I am confident Trump would win such a rematch, Bobby Kennedy being in the mix notwithstanding? Is it possible he's simply saying, let's just forget about, without saying it, let's just forget about impeachment. Let's just leave him in there so that Trump can face him again? Is that possible? Now, I don't know if that's possible. I'm just proposing that Mike Johnson may just be being coy about all this, because it's just unfathomable to me that he actually believes there's not enough evidence to impeach Joe Biden. That's clearly not the case. There is clearly enough, there's a mountain of evidence, there's a mountain of proof to show that this man has committed treason, among other crimes, but it's possible that Johnson and other power brokers in the GOP see Biden as just being heavy baggage for the Democratic Party and a liability. And maybe they want him in office so that Trump would face Biden rather than somebody else. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just throwing it out there. Something for you to chew on, something for you to think about. Let's move on. All right, we've got another one down. Man down, wannabe down. Tim Scott, Senator of South Carolina and another neocon extraordinaire who thinks Israel is some special place on earth. He's out. He has dropped out of the presidential race. Good riddance to you. Hopefully you could take your fellow South Carolinian with you, Nikki Haley, but she's probably in for the long haul, at least to raise money. Anyway, Tim Scott announced he suspended his campaign. He was never going to win, of course, and the handwriting was on the wall, and he saw it. But I want to move on to another person that remains in the GOP field. I'm not talking about Christie. I'm not talking about DeSantis or the aforementioned Haley. I'm talking about Vivek Ramaswamy. And folks, I've got to tell you, I've been talking about this some on X. I've been tweeting about this some. The more I hear from Vivek, the more I like. Now, I want to preface what I'm going to say about Ramaswamy, or shall we say Vivek, it's a little easier. I want to preface my commentary on what he has recently said by saying, I try my best not to be gullible. I have been gullible so many times in the past with politicians who, fed people like me red meat, gave us what we wanted to hear, but at the end of the day, they never did what we expected them to do. In other words, their actions never matched their rhetoric. We got a boatload of rhetoric from George W. Bush. We got a boatload of rhetoric from George H.W. Bush that we liked. It all sounded good. We got a lot of rhetoric from Ronald Reagan that sounded really good. But the actions rarely match the rhetoric. Well, I got to tell you, Vivek, of course, you can't judge his actions yet because he's not in office, so it's anybody's guess as to what he would actually do were he to become president. But I have to tell you, his rhetoric trumps, no pun intended, trumps anybody else's that I've heard so far. Now, when you contrast Vivek with Trump, what you have to understand is you can't really put Donald Trump into the camp of liberal versus conservative because he's really neither. He is a populist candidate. He governs, I would say, as a moderate. He's certainly not a fiscal conservative. There's no way you could make that kind of an argument. He just is a guy that gets in and does what he thinks is best. It may not be what I think is best or you think is best. But the thing about Trump I've never questioned is his love for his country. And that's worth something, at least. We know that at least in terms of rhetoric, he's for a strong border, and that's a good thing. But he doesn't govern as a conservative. That's because he isn't a conservative. He is really, at best, a moderate, perhaps left of center politician, and he is a politician. You're just never going to get a balanced budget with somebody like Donald Trump in office. The appeal of Trump for me, as I've stated on my channel in the past, is that he does not seek to get us into some sort of protracted shooting war with any other country. He usually pulls back the reins when it comes to matters of war. And that at this point in our American narrative, I'm just clutching hold of anything I can get my hands on. I see Trump as pretty much a guy who's got his thumb in the dike, who's preventing the dam from completely busting, right? Or bursting, if you prefer. All I ask is that he, seal the border and keep us out of wars. If he'll at least do that, I'll just take what I can get. Beggars can't be choosers, right? Well, back to Vivek. Vivek is, I covered last week what he said during the last debate, quote unquote, where he really took it to the press. And it was a sight to see. If you haven't seen it, I encourage you to go back and watch that last show, or at least watch where Vivek went after the press in the latest debate. He went after Ronna McDaniel with relish, as he should have, and it was gold, absolute gold. But this is what he tweeted the other day on X or Twitter. Listen to this, folks. This really got my attention. Quote, on day one, instantly fire 50% of federal bureaucrats. Here's how. If your social security number ends in an odd number, you're fired. That downsizes government by a half. Absolutely nothing will break as a result. It doesn't violate civil service rules because mass layoffs are exempt. Unquote. Wow! Man, did I perk up when I read that quote from Vivek on X. On day one, instantly fire 50% of federal bureaucrats. I was waving the pom-poms when I read that, because I have said for so long we could have an absolute Republican sweep at the next election. Put in a Republican president, a Republican Senate, a Republican House. How much would it change our lives for the better? I don't really know. I don't know if it would. And the reason I maintain is because what never happens is we never get rid of these bureaucrats that are in there affecting our lives for the worst for life. They're not elected. These are people who live in Arlington and Fairfax and Alexandria, in the suburbs of Washington, D.C. They get their jobs as federal bureaucrats in one of the government agencies, be it the Department of Defense, the Department of Education, Health and Human Services, and on and on and on and on it goes. They're lifers. They're bureaucrats. They get up there and they stay for life, and they write rules that affect all of our lives. But there's nothing you can do about it. They're not elected. They can't be thrown out of office. They are like cockroaches. You just can't stamp them out. They're in for the rest of their natural lives. You cannot get rid of them. Or no, I'm wrong. You're wrong, Triple T. You do not get rid of them. When's the last time you heard anybody running for the presidency, Ronald Reagan included, Bush included, Trump included? When's the last time you heard of any presidential candidate say the first day in office he's going to fire half of the bureaucrats? Hell, I never even heard Ron Paul say that, for heaven's sakes. Maybe he did and I just missed it. When's the last time you heard a presidential candidate propose slashing the bureaucracy by a half on day one? Vivek just said it. He said fire half of them. How do you do it? Hey, if your social security number ends in an odd number, you're out. You're fired. This is music to my ears. Let me tell you something. If you could work out a trade, if you could say, all right, we're going to have an all-Democrat Senate and an all-Democrat House, but in exchange for that, we'll fire half of the bureaucrats. Deal. Folks, bureaucrats affect our lives. I don't know if they affect our lives as negatively as the politicians, the federal politicians we have, but this much I do know. They do get up there and they do write policy, and they do interfere in our lives, and they do enforce statutes and laws, some that they have created themselves within their own departments. The notion that you could have armed IRS agents is absurd. These are bureaucrats, unelected. And when you have a presidential candidate who comes out and says, my first day in office, I'm firing half of them. Brother, I got to tell you, you're getting my attention now, Vivek. You, sir, are getting my attention. Now, I started this little segment by saying I'm not going to be a sucker. I'm not going to be gullible, and I will not. I really am impressed by this quote. But I've had my political heart broken so many times by so many politicians who talk a good talk, but they get in office and they forget everything they ever said. So I am waving my pom-poms at a distance, but I like what I hear. Now, I don't think Vivek is going to get the nomination, so this may be somewhat moot. But it's good for him to say things like this because, pardon me, it may create enough of a stir that Trump might come out and say, yeah, that's a pretty good idea. I don't know. But if you could have anybody running for the presidency who vows to fire half of the bureaucracy on day one, how does that make you feel? Makes me feel pretty good. Makes me pretty scared if I'm one of those bureaucrats. But folks, we don't need these people in their offices. We simply don't need them. They are part of the non-essential workers we talked about a few weeks ago with regard to the potential federal shutdown. We don't need these people. We have less liberty and less freedom because of bureaucrats. We never hear this addressed in the media, these so-called debates. Federal bureaucrats are never an issue in any campaign, but they should be an issue in every campaign. It should be right up there with the border, with taxation, with war. Bureaucrats need to be dealt with. They need to be terminated. So, we don't need all these bureaucrats, folks, making policy, enforcing policy. We are so top-heavy with this federal government, and it's time we got rid of a lot of these people. And Vivek is the only one I've ever heard of who's actually talking about doing that. All right, let's move on. Give me your comments down below. I really would like to hear what you have to say with regard to what Vivek said about bureaucrats. And I'm going to stop real quick. I've been doing this some at the front of the videos and some at the end. I'm going to stop right now. While you're thinking about it, give me a thumbs up on the video. Would you please do that? Hit that like button, the thumbs up button down below. If you have not yet subscribed to the Triple T channel, do so right now. Hit the button, the red button down below. Subscribe to the channel. All right, let's continue. Clay Travis of the Travis and Buck Sexton show, the one that replaced Rush Limbaugh, which is impossible, as we see. He was interviewing Donald Trump recently, and he asked Donald Trump, who went to the UFC fight over the weekend at Madison Square Garden, and he walked in with Tucker Carlson, which Clay Travis caused him to ask Donald Trump, would you consider Tucker Carlson for your vice president? And in short, Donald Trump said, yes, I would consider Tucker Carlson. Now, how do you feel about the prospect of a Vice President Carlson? I'm a fan of Tucker's. I am a fan. I think he is full of common sense. I watch him regularly. I have referenced him here regularly. Tucker's fairly young. He's in his 50s. He's good looking. He's articulate. He's eloquent. He is pretty much on the right side of major issues of the day. He's certainly on the right side when it comes to matters of war. He has exposed the corruption in Ukraine. He is not in bed with our support of Israel, nor should he be. On fiscal matters, he's right down the straight as an arrow, as far as I can tell. Tucker makes a lot of sense. I believe that Tucker would be an excellent vice presidential. I believe the ticket would be wonderful. Trump, Carlson 24, has a really nice ring to it. So that's something to think about. How does that make you feel? Does that make you even more inclined to support Donald Trump? You know, when you stop and think about it, Trump is pushing 80. He's he's obviously in far better physical shape than the current occupant of the White House is. But that would certainly set Tucker up for a pathway to the presidency. How would you feel about that? That notion doesn't bother me too much, I have to tell you. All right, let me move on to a man by the name of Raphael Warnock. I don't know if you know who this man is. If you're a Georgian in the United States, you know who this is. Raphael Warnock is a pathetic excuse of a senator from the state of Georgia, my beloved home state. So it saddens me that the two senators from Georgia are Warnock and Pajama Boy John Ossoff. I can't believe what's happened to my beloved Georgia. We have a goober for a governor, Brian Kemp, although he is a Republican, it doesn't much matter. And then for Senate, we have Warnock and Ossoff. Warnock most recently won re-election last year by defeating Herschel Walker in the Senate, who was a terrible candidate. Best running back in college football ever. Herschel, I love you, buddy, but only on the football field. You just were not political material. Whatever the case, Raphael Warnock, who is a extremist left-wing liberal, and he was interviewed over the weekend by Jen Psaki. Good old little Jen. Let me circle back to you on that Psaki. Former White House press secretary for Biden, now a reporter on MSNBC. She interviewed Warnock, and she asked him about what she considered to be a contradiction of evangelicals supporting Donald Trump. And this is what Warnock said. Warnock said that the evangelical support of Donald Trump is a deep contradiction. Now, why would he say that? Well, I know why he would say that. He would simply say that because of Trump's personal behavior, of Trump's history of questionable behaviors and his morals, or his lack of morals, his perceived lack of morality, shall we say, his infidelities and things of this nature. And so that evangelicals would support Donald Trump to Raphael Warnock is a deep contradiction. Well, Mr. Warnock, all I have to say to you, sir, is you are a deep hypocrite. Let me tell you a little bit more about old Raphael. Raphael Warnock, before he got into the Senate, was a Baptist preacher, but not just any Baptist preacher. This man, who of course tried to run over his wife with his SUV, go look it up, it's the truth. This man, is what we refer to as a social justice warrior. Now, what is an SJW? What is a social justice warrior? This is what you see often in the African American community in the black church, quote unquote. These are people for whom the gospel, if you will, means anything. They build themselves as being inclusive. In other words, you can be anything. You can be any kind of freak you want to be. You can believe anything about the Christian faith and the Christian religion that you wish to believe. You will not be excluded. Anything goes if you're a social justice warrior, which explains how a guy like Raphael Warnock can bill himself as a Baptist preacher. Now, of course, I'm not a Protestant, as you know, but I'm going to tell you that Raphael Warnock, as a Baptist preacher, is not the same as Billy Bob Smith down at the First Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama, or wherever. It's not the same thing at all. Raphael Warnock, you shouldn't be criticizing evangelicals and their support of Donald Trump, because before you criticize them, you need to learn something about the Christian religion which you claim to be a minister of. You are not. You're a fraud, you're a phony, and you're a hypocrite. A social justice gospel is not the gospel at all. Got it? Good. Did you hear about the city administrator who is trying to steal Christmas? Oh, yeah. Get a load of this. This is from Wisconsin. This appeared in Breitbart. A memo from a Wisconsin deputy city administrator discouraged employees from putting up religious decorations in red and green colors for the holidays in public buildings in order to be inclusive, don't you know? We don't want to offend anybody, folks. The email from Wauwatosa Deputy City Administrator Melissa Cantarero Weiss began by requesting that city employees create a, quote, welcoming and inclusive environment for all residents and visitors to our buildings, as well as our co-workers. The message went on to ask that workers refrain from using religious decorations. Y'all are not going to believe this crap. Refrain from using religious decorations or those solely associated with Christmas, such as red and green colors, in public spaces within city buildings. The Weiss only wants inclusive winter symbols like snow persons on display in all public buildings. The woke believe red and green decorations are inequitable and exclusionary as they are aligned with traditional Christmas decor. Weiss continued to suggest alternatives to traditional Christmas decorations like snowflakes, snow people, and lights using colors like blue, green, and purple instead. Let's see what else she said. And there's just been all kinds of backlash. And the mayor of Wauwatosa says he's fine calling snowmen snow people and urging city workers not to use red and green Christmas decorations. This is unbelievable. You can find this on Twitter or X. Her name is Melissa Cantarero Weiss. She doesn't want you to use red and green colors because, folks, you might upset somebody. And we want to be inclusive here, don't you know? We don't want to offend anyone. And, you know, these people who bring probably their emotional support animals to work with them, we can't offend them. They might be traumatized at the sight of red and green. So we don't want to use, we want to use things like snowflakes. How appropriate is that? And we want to talk about snow people, not snowmen. No. Don't you be so intolerant. Snow people. And lights, not red and green, but instead let's use blue and purple. Purple lights for Christmas? Come on, man. Purple's not a Christmas color. Not in my world it ain't. If you're talking about Christmas colors, for me, for Triple T, my Christmas colors are red, green, gold, maybe silver. Not so much blue for me. I'm not big on blue for Christmas, but certainly not purple. Now, you can use whatever colors you want, but my standbys are red, green, and gold, and silver bells. And if it hurts your feelings that I won't use purple lights and that I will not say snow person instead of snowmen, well, boo freaking who. I guess you'll just have to get over it. The Grinch that stole Christmas. We have her name. Her name is Melissa Cantarero Weiss. Why are these people always hyphenated, it seems? I'm looking at a picture right now. No wonder. She was what you would typically believe a liberal that I suppose identifies as a woman would look like. You can find this chick on X. But take down your red and green Christmas decorations, folks. And take that and stop saying snowmen. You need to put up purple Christmas lights, and you need to just put up snow persons, because we don't want to offend anybody at Christmas time. Melissa, darling, you just got to get over yourself, because if you come by my house, you're going to see red, green, and gold. a little bit of silver. You might see a snowman if we have snow. You ain't going to see a snow person, and you sure as hell ain't going to see a snowflake, if you know what I mean. Just get over yourself. These are the kind of bureaucrats I'm talking about that we need to get rid of. I am so tired of these woke people who are just who get so offended at the stupidest things. You get so offended at the color red or green. Are you kidding me? You probably like the color red if we're talking about communist China. Melissa, get over yourself, sweetheart. Man up. Go pet your emotional support dog or cat or whatever you got and deal with it. There you have it, folks. That's what's going on. Remember to give me a like down below. Subscribe to the channel. This is Trailer Trash Tim. Hey, it's good to have you here, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.